Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Laura Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Lecter George.
And Harrison, the Identity Circle!
We continue our coverage of the heroes, Joe's second standalone, and the next First Law entry. And we cover Devoutly To Be Wished and Casualties. So let's get started. Bada boom, bada bing, bada boom. We want to continue to thank you the audience. I want to thank you. I'm speaking backwards. We want to thank you, the audience, for your continued support. We appreciate it very much.
We also really appreciate the politicians that have been lining our pockets, so that we can spread union propaganda. We really appreciate that.
The young lion.
That guy's gonna be a
star.
He's gonna do great things. He's up and coming.
There's something about his blonde hair that just captivates me.
Nothing.
The way it kind of goes forward and then back,
Nothing but positive things in his future. I will say that for sure. That dude's gonna be a whole person. And we just want to remind you to follow us on our social media and our YouTube page, please. Don't forget that. Come on, you know the deal. Hit that follow button. Hit that subscribe button.
Just because we don't post things doesn't mean you don't owe us.
Yeah, even if you look up our social media accounts and nothing's been posted in 2 months, that's fine. Just follow it anyway. It's fine.
Please follow. And because you haven't listened to this part, guess what? We're starting off with the community interaction segment, and so I'm gonna repeat the plea to follow us on social medias, you motherfuckers.
That's right. We're doubling up on it because obviously, actually, what we really want is for if you guys to email us or comment on our videos or our episodes, which is awesome because we can't interact with you on Reddit, which we are very sorry about, but it's how things are. So we will be looking forward to hearing from you if you do so find it in your heart. And also want to point out that House of the Meme Maker, as we always like to promote, is still doing the heroes meming every chapter. And there's some good memes out there, so go check it out. And more importantly, participate.
Yeah, participate because, there's some bangers in there. We can see the memes. We can access Reddit. We can't really just post or comment or like.
Definitely can't post through proxies either. That's definitely not been happening. Don't worry.
Yeah. Would have loved to have, learned that possibility before anything. But, I guess what happens. What happens is what happens. But yeah, so for our community interaction segment, we're just highlighting the meming every chapter contest that is going on over there on the House of the Meme Maker. Sir Spaceman is running that bad boy, and it's a pretty fun one. Now, he's changed up the format, right? So get your asses down on over there and start posting some dank memes, as the kids say, right? Dank? Is it tank or dank?
What's tank?
Is it tank?
It's.
I've never heard that before, Jeffrey.
The term.
I don't use this terminology.
Listen, Jeffrey, the term dank is outdated but correct.
Oh my god damn it, it's outdated already.
They were using dank in like the 90s, right? That's not just
they weren't. No, they weren't. Maybe that's a British thing, but not dank. I don't remember that word.
Dank just means like moist, but in like a good way.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Yes, but not like related.
Okay, you know what? Let's go with that, George. Say it again, but use the word moist instead of dank.
Yeah, moist memes. Oh,
perfect. You're with the times.
Yeah,
that's going to be our new Reddit alternative. Moist memes.
Moist memes. Moist memes. XOXO. So, we do want to point out. George wants to point out something that we were corrected also during our last episode in terms of packing a cart. George, would you like to highlight this correction?
Yeah, somebody.
Somebody.
Well, somebody. Oh, the bloody Nada.
Yeah.
And so it was talking to us on the Discord today, and was listening to the episode and said, and corrected us quite rightly, because all three of us, like very reasonably intelligent, I'd like to think, fellas, did not know how to stack a cart properly. So if we were lost in the wild and we had to stack a cart, then we'd be fucked, wouldn't we?
Well, if we had a cart in the wild, I'd say we're okay.
We're not fucked.
Well, I don't know. It seems more like a burden if you can't stack it, Anyway, so Bloody Niner says that the best way to do it is just to stack everything vertically so that it's all in columns rather than in rows, so that you can access everything evenly.
That makes logical sense.
Exactly, it does. Makes a lot of sense.
But what happens when the cart's bigger than the item, and you stack it vertically, and it's still being stacked below something? Where do you put that?
Or
Wait,
what happens when all of your weight is on one side because all the dense stuff is on that side?
Yes. Yeah. Answer that second question, but Harrison, did you just say what if the cart is bigger than the item? Because the cart is bigger than the item.
I meant taller.
What if the item is taller?
What if the item is shorter than the height of the cart when it's sitting inside of it? So you can't just stack it vertically. Vertically, something has to go on top of it. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't clarify that very well.
I was like,
no, but since we're very chaotic tonight, and we also are amending things, I realized, guys, that we didn't point out that the Colonel Valamir, in charge of the 1st Regiment of Cavalry, which is Tunney's, regiment, that Colonel Valamir is the same Colonel Valamir that West absolutely bullied into oblivion.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I mean, I think we brought it up very briefly, but I don't think it was.
We might have brought it up.
I don't think we did. I think we all thought about it, and because we're so used to knowing who he is, we didn't bring it up. I'm telling you.
That's a good point. We do that. We do that.
Yeah, we do that. So, anyways, if anybody who doesn't know, that is the same Colonel Valamir. And as you can see, he went from just being a quartermaster who was kind of a dickhead and pretentious to...
he was a major, too, though, at the time.
Yeah, he was a major. But he was he's a rose in station, and he is not a complete moron, actually. He's kind of... he's okay.
Yeah, he was a proud shit to West, back in the day.
But I think that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because, like, those people, like that generation, Valamir's generation, don't have any experience, like, at that time. Like, Valamir is younger than West in that time when he gets bullied.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, this is just a guy that's just, like, literally just, like...
I thought they were similar age.
The Gurkish War, too, and they were similar age.
Okay,
but
never mind. I'll cut that out.
You don't need to cut that out. No, you keep your wrongness in, all right?
Oh, my goodness. All right. We're going to start with Devoutly To Be Wished.
Oh, yes. So, before we start off with how we're going to start this off with, I do want to point out something. George, there was something about this title that you wanted to, highlight as well. Because George has been doing Joe has been incorporating some pretty... the titles of his chapters are like a part of well-known works of literature.
Yes, Joe Abercrombie is a well-read Englishman.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do think that the Heroes, it does. The First Law and Best Love, Best Served Cold as well are fairly referential in things that, they have very, very strong influences from media that has been in the last, half of the 20th century. You know what I mean? Whereas, traditional fantasy, Tolkien, Wheel of Time, it's all very, like, mythical and, like, self-inspired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think the Heroes is kind of reaching this point where it's almost... He's not really Joe isn't really writing a fantasy novel. He's writing...
a war novel.
An anti-war novel.
Yeah.
But with his own sort of, like, fantasy twist.
Yeah,
I think that is just so
incorporating it, but
exactly, he's incorporating all those themes and all sorts of different things. And I think Gorse is a really good example, especially with this chapter title, which is obviously "Devoutly To Be Wished," which is from a very, very famous Shakespeare sonnet or a monologue in Hamlet, and it's everybody knows to be or not to be. But
that's the question.
Yeah, that is the question. But everybody knows it is sort of like just sort of a casual context. But that whole section is about him basically considering whether or not he should kill himself. So devoutly to be wished, to die to sleep, perchance to dream, Oh, that's the rub. And it really reminds you of the way Gorse talks to himself. Where he's like, in this chapter, he's like, oh, do I really hear the sound of battle, or do I just want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really good time, and I think that's fantastic. Anyway, that's enough of my rambling.
No, that's great. That was great. Well, thank you for that.
Well said,
All right.
George.
Well said. Well said. I can't add it to that. I don't think I can.
I don't have the literary capacity to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is like all I can do is agree with the lens of analysis in terms of like Gorst. You know, talking about how we'll get to it. We'll get to it. And speaking of getting to it, Harrison, you have something you want to do for us?
Your August Majesty, General Jallarharm's division has reached the town of Osrong, seized the crossing of the river with usual force competence, and the 6th Rostard regiments have taken up strong position on the hill. The Northmen call the heroes. From its summit, one receives a commanding view of the country for miles around, including the all-important road north to Carleon. But aside from the dead fire, we have seen no sign of the enemy. The roads continue to be our most stubborn antagonists. The leading elements of General Metteric's division have reached the valley, but become thoroughly entangled with the rearmost units of Jallarharm's, making...
So, listeners, as you might tell, Gorse was in the middle of writing a letter to His August Majesty Giselle, the Queen, and it got interrupted, apparently. And the reason why it got interrupted is Gorse is hearing things, right? He hears voices on the wind, but obviously he's not so sure, but he thought it was a bit more like, you know, the voices were like frantic excitement. So where Gorse is right now in relation to the Union, the army, he's on the south side of the river bank, right, with Valamir's regiment. Valamir already had to send a battalion through the bog. Let's not forget that, right? And so he's looking around, and he sees Valamir arguing with the messenger from Jallarharm. Not so much as arguing, but more like just being exasperated, because the messenger basically goes, I see that, but the general asked you to hold your current position. Valamir goes, okay, hold, sure, but on the road? What about, does it not mean for us to cross the river or arrange ourselves on the bank? I already lost one battalion across a bog, and now the other one's in everyone's way. So he's basically trying to organize his regiment, what's left of it, in a manner that's conducive to the mission of the army, the Union.
And it's frustrating as hell, isn't it? Because everybody's had this where somebody sends somebody to give you an instruction and the context has completely changed.
Oh yeah. Well,
and you're like, well, I'm supposed to do this, but I can't do it anymore because this isn't working. Can you tell them that? And they're just like, no.
Yeah. And even Valamir says, he goes, the general cannot have meant for us to sit here. Surely you see that. And the messenger just goes, I do see that. But the general asks that you hold your current position. And it's just, what? He can't, like, either, there's no, you know what, Jallarharm, as lovable as he is, he might have literally meant them to stay put. Not really thought about it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, but then that's also a theme of Jallarharm, that he doesn't delegate. He can't trust anybody that he knows to do their job properly because he has to micromanage them.
Yeah, because otherwise he feels incompetent because he doesn't know how to do it himself. So he feels like if he delegates, then he doesn't know how to actually take care of it.
Yeah, he has the worst case of imposter syndrome possibly ever.
Yes,
right?
And quite a fact, it's not even imposter syndrome. He is literally an imposter.
No, right, but you know it, you feel it, right? I'm going to put forth the case that he has the worst case of it in all of fantasy.
Oh, bold statement there, sir.
Damn, pound.
Well,
are you excluding our boy Giselle?
No, Giselle is a.
You need to read Brandon Sanderson. There's all sorts of mental illness in there.
Well, excuse me. How dare you?
Imposter syndrome is a mental illness, right? That's why they call it a syndrome.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that's just more like
It's more like a terminology, I feel like. But
so Gorse goes back to his letter, right? While thinking about how in this army specifically, the men that use the shovels, the spades to dig latrines, trenches, graves, whatever the case may be, they're the most organized unit in the entire army, which is pretty funny.
And I
Uh,
love that. I love that. Sorry, I love that detail. That is so important all the way throughout warfare. Even to this day, the first thing you got to do when you arrive at a battlefield is dig a fucking trench, and dig
Oh, yeah.
20 trenches for 20 different reasons because it's so important. And
Yes.
nobody ever includes that. There's no trenches in Lord of the Rings.
Well,
Well, I mean,
I
the,
like
the
that
the
they.
style of battle would be different, right?
Yeah. I like that they include it here because one thing that is noted is like the Union is kind of always like seems like well, for lack of a better term, they always seem like the pussy nation. Like everybody's like, oh no, fighting, oh, but like they are masters of like, despite what we see, they are ultimately masters of logistics and organization. They have much, so much quantity comparison to the nation. So I like that this is a detail. Like, yeah, they're kind of pussies, but you know what? They know how to dig a fucking trench.
And we're going to come up a lot of that in the next chapter as
Yeah.
well. So
Yes.
Oh yeah, you'll see, folks. But he goes back to goes back to writing that letter, but then he hears the wind, like the wind changes again. So now he hears like actual shouts. He's pretty sure about it. He starts getting like amped up. His adrenaline starting to
Could it
uh,
be?
increase in a way.
and I love
And
how it's like, is it from the north? Well, where else would the Northmen come from?
right. And so he thinks he sees people like moving on the heroes. And so he goes down to where Valamir's standing, who is still arguing with the messenger. And he goes, Colonel Valamir, or Colonel Valamir. And he goes, what? He goes, you should ready your men. I should. And Gorse was keeping an eye on it. And then finally he sees a considerable body of men leaving the heroes, like on the eastern slope. And he realized they're only leaving in mass like that because there's got to be an attack by the Northmen somewhere else. And even Valamir here is like that sounds like shouting, and then he's Gorse tells Valamir, get them ready now. And Valamir goes, to do what? And he's walking away, and Gorse is like, to fight. Basically, yes, to fight, like that. Uh, yeah, because Gorse is already walking towards his horse when he says that, because he is amped up for this opportunity. So that's the end of that chapter. It's a pretty quick one. So, boys, how do you rate that?
I'm gonna rate it. Don't do this very often. I'm gonna rate it a 1.
No judgment. No
It's,
judgment. It's
it's
okay.
to me, it's really just a fill-in chapter. Yeah, we get the little letter, and I do like the idea of him being like, oh, it's poetry with him being like, oh, I kind of wanted to die, but like we get to know that about him anyways pretty quickly. So I don't. It's just
I'll counter that. I'm actually going to give this one a high one, despite being a short chapter.
Oh shit!
I'm going to give this one a 5.
Wow.
So I like I said at the beginning, I liked all the poetry of the Hamlet reference and the kind of suicidality of Gorse's character. But I also just like that this is the breath before the storm. We know all of the pieces are in place and what's happening. We know exactly what's coming at them because we've seen it from that side. So this is just the short, and I like how it's so introspective as well. Like Gorse is looking around and he's looking at all these people and thinks that he's just being so negative, and it just all happens at once. And I just think it's such a short, choppy, witty. It's good. I'll give it a 5.
Fair enough.
Wow.
What about you, Jeffrey?
I'm gonna go ahead and give it. Honestly, I was gonna give it like a 2. To be honest, very short. We have the start of the battle. It's about to commence, and it's pretty amped up for that. But just it's so short. I do like how the letter got interrupted. That was pretty funny to me. But that's pretty much it. We just see Valimir being competent, but also constrained by orders from high on up, right? So, yeah, I'll give it a 2. That's mine. Alrighty. So, let's move on to our next segment, which is best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
So this week again, we have a repeat offender. We've got the Bloody Niner once again, guys. Can you believe it?
Damn it! Damn it!
Can you believe it?
All right, I've said it once. I'll say it again. I do believe that the Bloody Niner may be our biggest fan, and
Ooh,
it's
okay.
time we reciprocate that.
All right, Harrison, get on your knees and reciprocate.
I was thinking more like a gift basket or something, you know.
Oh.
So this is actually a spoiler for a couple of chapters ahead. So if you listen to this podcast and you haven't read the books, then you're a maniac, and you should skip ahead. So it's that fucking meme from Invincible where it's like, "Why? When do we do this?" And it's like, well, "That's elite part. You don't." It's that ladder like a we're cavalry, right? So when do we get our horses, Tuddy? Well, that's the neat part. You don't.
Good one. So fitting.
That's great. That's a good one.
And
That
you know
is
what?
cool.
I'd love to talk about all the memes that have been uploaded this week, but they're all by the Bloody Nine, and I don't want to give them too much attention. So everybody
Yeah.
else get memeing. Come on, guys.
Mhm,
Catch up,
mhm.
bitches.
Not that you're not doing a bad job. Keep posting Bloody Nine. Don't want to put you off.
Yeah. Keep
Yeah.
going.
Keep it up, man. Mhm. So, thank you for that, George. We appreciate it. We love a good, good meme of the week, and it's always good to have Bloody Niner as one of the winners of that. So now we'll move on to our second and final chapter read through. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We have arrived to Casualties.
Woo!
Exciting.
We've been talking about it over and over again. Looking forward to
Mhm.
when we're getting these POV little snippets, and we're excited to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boy. Now, if you are not a first time reader, you know what this chapter is all about. It's fucking great. We love it. If you're a first time reader and you haven't read it yet, somehow, enjoy. All right. So, because what Joe does with these shifting perspectives, this is where it starts, right? With these, these changes in perspectives in the same chapter, and it's frantic, but it's cohesive still in a way, right? Just like that through
Yes.
line,
Mhm.
and we'll talk about that. So we start off from the perspective of a Captain Lasmark, and he is thrashing around in some barley, the barley that's to the east of the heroes. It's him and the Ninth Company of the Rostad Regiment are on their way to Ostrong to counter Ricci's men. We know it's just Ricci, but he sees everyone's standard. So they all left the heroes, and this is one captain out of a company of the regiment. Apparently, it might be a well-respected regiment. We'll see. Anywho,
We can kind of see on the map that he's sort of approaching like the bulk of the enemy, so he's going to be outnumbered like no matter what way they advance.
right? Because well,
'Cause
there are
they're
other
coming
men.
down from like the forest and the hill at the same time, whereas he's just on one side. So like it's like completely outnumbered.
No, I
Well-
think looking at the map.
They think that they're just in Ostrong. Right now, they do.
Well, no.
No, he's definitely in an open field right now. The mossy,
Yeah, he's the
mossy
open-
logs.
Oh, that's true.
He's in the
Yeah.
open field because he's from if you look at the map, he's part of Wetterland's men and the heroes.
Yeah.
Him and his men go down east, down the slope, and they cross to the field of barley. You can actually kind of see it. It looks like there's a hedgerow surrounding it. So that's where he's heading to counter Ricci's men, right? And so, he's urging his men on to the town, onto the town. And he makes a note that it's no secret that General Jallenhorn was prone to poorly considered orders, but saying so would have been terrible form. Usually, officers just quietly ignored him where possible and creatively interpreted him where not. But there was no room for interpretation in a direct order to attack. Now, here's what I want to talk to you guys about. Looking at the map, right? Jallenhorn, it has to be on the south side of the river, right? And so when he gives them the direct order of attack to attack, I'm assuming he's just sending a messenger over, right? But does
Yes.
that mean he saw all this happening before Gorst did? Because when Gorst hears the voices and everything, he sees the men leaving the heroes.
Well,
So I'm guessing,
no, in
so I'm guessing-
Jallenholm, he's probably still spinning around on the other side of the hill, going, "Oh, what are you
But
doing? Why are you shoveling that shit wrong?" You know.
but he's nowhere near the heroes though. Not Jallenhorn. He can't be.
But he was.
They were coming
So-
up. They were coming up on the heroes when
He was
Gorst
with
left
Gorst
the-
earlier to scope it out.
Right. So my thought is here's what I'm thinking. John Horn and Gorst were both up there. They were kind of looking around, see what he needed to do. He sent Gorst to go talk to Colonel Valamir.
Right.
Obviously, Gorst had time to be like, "Oh yeah, we're just chilling." Whip out his pen and paper. But Gorst only gets engaged about close to the end of Casualties because it all happens pretty quick. So he
Right.
starts healing, shouting. That's the attack. We're seeing right before the attack with the start of Casualties. So that's why it's kind of like that. With Jallenhorn, he obviously moved back maybe to the
Yeah.
headquarters or something like that.
And
So.
headquarters but yeah, I guess that my question is because headquarters seems to be
right. So
See,
I
so
think
where
I think
headquarters
what you
is
get- so he talks about the town fence. So we're talking about just north of Osrong, probably.
or west. I think west.
Yes.
Yeah, west.
hmm
Yeah, absolutely.
But
right.
I'm just curious about
Listeners, thank
Jallenhorn's
you for listening
location.
to us rambling.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm just curious about the Jallenhorn's location and his ability to give a direct order. Because normally when they get a direct order, that's like from one person to another person, not
I think that he was up on the heroes. This is what I think. I think he told Gorst, go give that message, and then he turned around and said, "Go there and take that town. You have to go take that town."
that's not how the timeline works though. Because Ostrong was they already took to town. I'm talking about the direct order to attack. I'm probably making like a mountain out of a molehill. I'm just curious.
I see what you mean. Like there's kind of like a direct command, and again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, Jallenholm gives that order, and then like an hour later, it gets to them, and the situation has completely changed. It's like,
That might be part of it.
we'll attack, but Jallenholm doesn't realize that there's 10,000 Northmen there.
I know
No,
what you're saying, Jeff.
no,
How
but-
does he know about the 10,000 Northmen?
Yeah. Well, my point is, obviously, we saw in the previous chapter, there are men in Ostrong already. We know that Union men are already there. That's not what I'm
Yes.
saying. I'm saying about right now, the men that left the heroes. He gave them the order to attack. So anyway, whereas we get that kind of confused because like I'm just looking at the map, the perspective. He's in the south side, and he gave them a direct order to attack. That's all.
He is in the south side now. He might have given him an order to attack and then said, "I got to go back to go make sure the men keep moving up."
But-
Yeah,
I think that's great that we can debate this stuff, and none of this is concrete at all.
yeah, and honestly, it's not even consequential. We just spent 5 minutes.
Yeah.
on
And so
Anyway,
have you,
so-
listeners. You've just wasted 5 minutes of your time.
That's right. That's right. So Captain Lasmark is telling his men to keep even, be steady. But they're not really keeping steady because they're tired. They're going through some barley. It's difficult. They're not even really equipped well. Right? Because they didn't get all their equipment because of all the bad roads and everything. And he had
how whoever packed the carts didn't do a very good job.
Yeah, exactly. And so he had made representations to Major Popol, and that major had made representations to Colonel Wetterlant of the 6th, who was ranking officer on the hill. And so he appeared too busy to take notice of all the lack of equipment. So anyway, they're on their way to the town. They're marching. They're jogging or whatever. They're walking. And he says like to watch the tree line, and He does it just because it looks ominous, right? The tree line to the distance in the north. He goes, he doesn't know how many people are hiding in the shadows,
Tree lines always
but
look ominous like that, friend.
yeah. And but the truth of the matter is like in the north, there's woods everywhere, and they always thought the north was, Northmen were everywhere, so they weren't sure if there were actually men in there or not. But what are you gonna do? Urging his company ahead, they talk about this one guy, Captain Vorna, to his company to the right of Lasmark, and he's trying to urge his company quicker, right, to take all the glory.
I love that how
I like,
it's like even in this like desperate situation, he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna win.
yeah, and I like how there's a Sergeant Locke, who's I guess Captain Lasmark's second in command here, and he points it out. He goes, "That fool Vorna is gonna pull us all out of our formation." And Lastmark, he snaps at him at first. He goes, "The captain is simply obeying orders," but then under his breath he goes, "Asshole." Yeah, I guess he doesn't like Vorna, right?
So relatable. You're like, yeah, hey, this guy's just doing his job, but he's also an ass.
And so they're upping the pace, double time, and there's a major popal that we mentioned earlier. He's in the lead on horseback. He's waving them on with the sword. Yeah, come on, wow, 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 wow. Like the Sims. And
Yeah.
and then Sergeant Locke is like getting Lasmark's attention. He goes, "Sir, sir," and Lasmark is tired. He's gasping for breath. He's fucked. He goes, "What? I know. I can't hear a word he said." Oh, because he finally sees what Locke was actually pointing at, and and I like this. There's a gulf of difference, after all, between expecting the worst and seeing it happen. Northmen had broken from the woods and were rushing across the pastures towards them. It was hard to tell how many from this angle. The dipping ground was cut up by ditches and patchy hedgerows, but Lastmark felt himself go colder yet as his eyes registered the width of their front, the glimmer of metal, the dots of color that were their painted shields. So he realizes, oh shit, there's a lot of Northmen heading our way right now. And the regiment, the Rostard regiment, they're outnumbered, right? So, they have a lot of companies that are still following Major Popel off towards Ostrong, where there's even more Northmen waiting.
And not only are they outnumbered, but they're also not ready at all. Like they're all just like marching, like oh, what a lovely day.
And yes, a lot of them are, and some are seeing the Northmen, and then they're freaking out, right? And they're trying to form lines like desperately, and the Rostard regiment was out of formation and caught unsupported in the open. So now Lasmar is like, "Fuck!" He's like, "Halt! Form line, face north!" Right? They're trying to, get into formation as best as they can. Lasmark draws his sword to get it ready, but to get ready for battle. But funny enough, he had picked it up rather cost effectively. It's a cheap sword, right? Antique, and the hilt rattles. Apparently, he paid less for it than he did for his dress hat, which is now in hindsight, not the greatest decision for him, right?
I just love this Lasmark character. How he essentially what we get is he just goes deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. Like it's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy this sword. It's gonna be really cheap because I need to buy this hat because my officer likes me to look good on parade, and I'm only here because I took a big loan from Valiant and Bulk to buy my captaincy. And he's just sitting there like, oh shit, I've wasted my life. And I love that final line in this part. Is like, I never did all those things that I wanted to do before I was 30. Oh,
Yeah,
except
yeah.
for the army.
Yeah, we get there for sure. But so then he is doing his best, I guess, as good as he can. So Lasmark, Lasmark gets his men into formation. He kind of, when I say gets his men into formation, as he looks around, he sees the Major Popel. He's out. He's out on his horsey. He's like, "Oh fuck this," because they realize there's so many Northerners. And so when the Northerners come crashing down upon them, they're fucked because again, they're not prepared for this. They're not equipped, right? They're all out of sorts. They didn't even maintain the line when they were marching just towards Ostrong, and then let alone Now they have to wheel. So I'm just gonna say it. He Sergeant Locke was the first to try to fight somebody, did well, and then got his face smashed in. And then
Yep.
Lasmar gets to kill somebody, and he's like, "Wow, it worked!" And then he just ping like a ring.
I do think it's crazy, and there. This happens a lot with the Union guys, but this is the first time we ever see this because it's Casualties, and it's all about these one little minute POVs. Most of the Union guys are like, I haven't seen combat before. Holy shit! I can't believe I killed somebody, and then they immediately die right afterwards.
And you know what? From Biaz's perspective, that's a good trade.
Yeah, it is a good trade. Just cannon fodder as
One peasant for one trained warrior. Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, he kills one northerner, and then there's like a clicking sound, and then he goes blind in one eye. The world is spinning in his own head, and he can't move. And then he just thinks about like he got to do none of the things that he promised to do by the time he was 30. Oh, except join the army. And then we switch perspectives over to a guy named Light Sleep. This guy is a northerner, and this is the northerner that had fucking brained Lasmark. And then he brains him again with a mace and a little bit of a kick, and Lasmark is dead for sure. And then Light Sleep pickpockets him, poor guy, takes his ring that Lasmark had. And then there's a guy called Scabna, who's the chief of their dozen, I guess. And there's beef here immediately. We can see there's like resentment. And it's like, turn for the hill. So because once they like carve through that regiment, now they're going to swing around and surround the heroes. So
I like that feeling though that both sides are both. There's people on both sides that are like, come on, you got to fight, and everyone else is just kind of like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know about that. Yes. I need to do that.
And it just takes those couple of bastards to go first. That then it's like, oh, that's my mate in the fight. There, I'm gonna go and defend him.
Yeah, you have to have motivation to do it. Like the Northmen are like, they already kind of have the motivation of being like, I'm here to make a living. This is my job. Like the Carls, at least, who we're seeing the most of in this charge and stuff, because the Carls always leads the charge. We don't really get to see much of the Thralls, but even them, they're still like, ooh, some good loot. That's what I'm talking about. I can sell this shit. I make a good living. Whereas the Union men are like, why am I here?
They're all like traumatized. It's like Saving Private Ryan. They're all walking around like 1,000-yard stairs, and the Northmen are like, ooh, gold.
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to remember, those guys are bred on warfare. You know what I mean?
They
Born
are
and bred on that. And so, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's kind of like I like the Northmen and the Union as sort of like the Viking invasion of England in like the 800s or so. It's just like these people have never fought before in their entire lives for like generations because it's just been so peaceful on this little island. And these fucking dudes turn up in their dragon boat and kill everyone. And it's just like, what the fuck?
What is happening here? What? Although I would like to, I guess I would push back because the Isles always had like the Druids, right? So Scabna is dragging his men up the hill now. Lightsleep is begrudgingly going, and they see that the Union, they haven't not necessarily fortified the heroes, but they have certain defensive positions taken up, and now they're shooting flat bows down towards the Northmen. And Lightsleep has his shield up. He goes, I don't want to get stuck by one of these flat bows. These fucking things they're in. Once you get hit with a flat bow, you're fucked. You can't take that out because of the velocity that it pierces you.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that he says that, right? They said that in just a minute. They even say, because I'm just saying because we're talking about it already. They say the flat bows shot down from the top of the heroes. It's gonna go through shield and armor and flesh. Which is, I like that little detail. I don't know. I like the little like stat details.
Right.
That's exactly what crossbows are for historically. Therefore, they have a much. Yeah, exactly. They have much greater power. They've a lot less of a skill to be able to use them. So anybody can just be trying to use a crossbow in like a day.
We'll see in the next segment just how true that statement might be, George.
I was being ironic, Jeffrey.
What's irony? Uh, yeah, and so yeah, to your point, it's supposed to just do all kinds of damage at a shorter range, right? Than as opposed to a traditional kind of bow.
Mhm.
And I like how Skadna keeps ushering his men, get up the hill, you bastards! And Lightsleep, he just had enough of it. He goes, you know what, fuck it. Just because you're one of your homies with golden sons, I don't give a fuck. So he goes, how about you get up the fucking hill, you, and then poop, and then an arrowhead pops out of his jerkin, and he's like, ah! And then he collapses, and he's like, I'm stuck right through. And then Skadna goes to him, he's like, oh shit, what's going on? And he goes, God damn it, it hurts a lot. And Skadna goes, yeah, I bet it does. So where did you put that ring? And then we switch to the next perspective, and now we meet Sergeant Gaunt. Sergeant Gaunt was the guy that just fired that crossbow bolt. Flatbow, my apologies. And Sergeant Gaunt is all about his business, right? He is just cranking, shooting,
Yep.
reloading, cranking, shooting, reloading. That's his thing. And
He's the professional soldier. He's
Yep.
just there to do his job, and that's
Yep,
to crack the flatbow.
I know. I like this guy a lot. Like
Yeah.
you guys said, he's a professional soldier. He knows his business. Because a lot of people in the Union, like, instead of it being like a thing of like, I like to fight and I like loot or something like that, they're like, this is my job. I take pride in my work. You know, like, I like that.
I follow the SOP, his standard, the
Yes.
protocols and everything, standard operating procedures. And so like this guy, he's just doing his job. He's as he should. He's cheering on. He's not cheering on, but he's encouraging his men to do their job as well. He even thinks about like just because there's a lot of men here doesn't mean anything. You just do your job, you'll be fine. He remembers when the Gurkhas charged their line at Bishak. And he kept cranking his flatbow, and eventually they just ran away. So just keep doing it. There's a guy there, Private Rose, I think, Sergeant, whatever he is, because Private Rose is kind of losing his mind. He's like, by the fates, and Sergeant Gaunt is like, don't you even worry about that. Just focus on the next boat.
It's just like, don't you worry about that. So, and it's just, I can imagine this guy with a big smile on his face, just like, don't worry about it, kid. It's fine.
You got it.
Just keep handing me the bullets. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yep. And he just he tells them to crank, lads, crank. He's yelling at somebody like, where the fuck is the ammo? But he just goes and he shoots again. And then he's like, yep, got that guy. Awesome. He goes, that's the recipe, guys. Just keep shooting.
That's the damn recipe.
Love that. He goes, just keep shooting, lads. Just load. And there was a loud click beside him. Gaunt felt a searing pain in his neck, and all the strength went out of his legs. Now we switch perspectives to Rose, who says it was an accident. Rose had been tinkering with the trigger of his flatbow for a week or longer, trying to stop it wobbling, worried it might go off at the wrong moment. But he'd never been any good with machines. Why they made him a bowman, he'd no clue. Would have been better off with a spear. Sergeant Gaunt would have been a lot better off if they'd given Rose a spear. That was a fact, most definitely.
And you can imagine this is just one of like one of Tony's recruits. They've just got there. They're just like, yeah, you just do this. Don't worry about all those dudes over there that are running at you that want to kill you really badly and they look really scary. Just keep doing your job. This is exactly what every 18-year-old would do in that situation. They just oh fuck, I shot my shit.
This is definitely something Clyde would have done.
Yeah. If Clicker had been given the crossbow.
Cligga, that's his name. So he had as he was fumbling with it, he had shot the flatbow bolt and it went to Gaunt's neck, and they stared at each other, and then Gaunt just died. Oh god. And then Rose was slapping Gaunt's cheek like, Sergeant Gaunt. Like that's gonna do anything.
I love the line, like he slapped him as if he was trying to wake him from an unauthorized nap. Because like clearly that training is in there somewhere. It's just not in the right places.
An unauthorized nap is hilarious. It reminds me of unauthorized cinnamon from Deadwood. If you guys get that.
Oh fuck yeah, oh yeah, sure.
There better not be no goddamn unauthorized cinnamon on that table. Sorry. Love Dan Doherty. Go ahead, Harrison. What were you saying?
I was just saying I don't get that reference, but I will in the future. I have it on my list.
Good.
Good. You can't be mad at me for not. You're like, I'm mad at you for not watching it, but I can't be mad at you for promising to watch it in the future.
I'm gonna be mad if you don't watch it. You're young, so you have that excuse, but you better watch it. Anyway, so then somebody tells him he's dead. Fucking keep shooting. And Rose is he starts cranking, and he's shooting. He's fumbling a bolt. He's crying. There's tears streaming all over his face. What you crying for? Why you crying? And then arrows are flitting down, and then somebody he kind of gets nervous because an officer is like losing his mind. And then because somebody turns to run, the officer just straight up stabbed him, just cut him down with the sword, and he's like losing his mind. He's like, "For the king, for the king," and that's something Gorse would say, and possibly do.
I feel like Gorse got it from somewhere else, though. This is just what people say when they're gonna die. Yeah, for the king.
Yeah,
For the king.
And I like how the next line was Ross had never seen the king. And then a Northman jumps in screaming, it cuts down a guy next to Ross, but it's cut off the top of his head, screaming like a devil. And Ross is just like Rose. I'm sorry, I keep saying Ross, and because I'm just stumbling through this, but it's Rose. My bad. And he sees the young Northerner. He basically kills the officer, and at this point, Rose is just what the fuck, and so he finally runs away. He takes one step and then got hit so hard in the back of his head that he bit his tongue off. And then we switch to another perspective.
Ooh, that's not a good way to go, is it?
It's not. It's not.
Really not. But most of the people in this chapter don't go about a very good way, I will say.
No, they do not. They do not. And we'll see that also in this next one because we actually come to a perspective of a person that we've met before, Agric.
Oh,
who I mistakenly said died in the last episode.
No, that was Athrok.
That was Athrok. Yeah, I said it was Agric last. Sorry. Yeah, I'm corrected.
Yep. No worries.
Instead of being chastened.
No worries.
Instead
I do want to point out something. I forgot to mention something. In Rose's perspective, right before he died, as he's looking what's going on, the Northmen are swarming over. He notes a great tall one with long bare arms leaped clean over the jumble of stones, boots flicking at the grass that sprouted from the top, the biggest sword Rose had ever seen raised high. He didn't see how a man could swing a sword so big. That's Weirin. So Crawl and Dow, they're here. So that's how. So Agric is here. He killed the archer, aka Rose. Rest in peace, R.I.P. Poor little one out for the homie. That killed Gaunt by accident. And he sees Weirin fighting a big Union man. So Agric hits him in the back of the leg to help him out. Scory comes over, helps him finish him off. And Agric is bloodlust right now. That's what he's feeling. He's feeling a lot of bloodlust right now for vengeance for his brother Athrok. And he's running down these running Union men, these retreating Union men, like a wolf after sheep. So much so that, John Leon, he's like, slow down, you fucking crazy bastard, right? And Agric he's not stopping. He's not stopping at all because he's out for blood. And Brack is also there, fucking swinging his giant hammer. And then he sees that Black Dow's there, and Black Dow's, yelling out, to keep going. And it gives Agric like a nice little pump to see the leader of his men up there in the front line. And he's going through like these stones. He's shattering, he's stabbing, he's killing, he's fucking going nuts. And then he fights this guy with a standard that's holding the standard for the Union, standard for the regiment. He's fighting this guy, finally gets to kill him, whatever. And because his sword and his knife was stuck in this guy, he gets stabbed. Agric gets fucking stabbed by a half-bald man with gray hair.
Whoa. That's not just any bald man. That's what you
Hold on, we're not there yet. From Agric's perspective, an old man just killed him, which has got to be a kick in the nuts right before he dies, because now he's just lying in some dirt, right? And he couldn't get comfortable, and he's all numb.
And I like this. I love this ended with this. this is at this point, this guy would become the hero in the story because he's
Out for vengeance.
out for vengeance, and that's the
Yeah.
typical story. But he just dies. This is what happens if you're a regular person and you try to be the bloody nine.
Right. Yeah, very
Because
true.
because the
Great
first
point.
trilogy is all archetypes and taking the piss out of the archetypes, right?
Mhm.
So all the famous barbarian and the wizard and stuff like that. There's just all archetypes, but this is going and just making everything realistic.
Mhm.
And you see all the archetypes in this, and I'm going to name them later, but I just want to take that aside. What do you think about that?
No, it's very true. Yeah, somebody just because they are emboldened by the loss of a loved one doesn't make them impervious to stabbings. Right. And Joe does flip this on his head a lot. Absolutely. He did it in the first trilogy. He does it in all his his works, and that's why we love him. Harrison, did you want to add to that part?
I mean, yeah, I didn't think about it in that way. Like he Agric thinks he's the Bloody Nine, and he's like, I'm gonna get caught up in the moment. And I do like because it's Joe. Ordinarily, we would feel as though, oh, it's main character. Look at him, like. But then he has a balance, right? Of somebody like the Bloody Nine can do that and get away with it because he's special and because he's,
He's
that's
death.
just how he's written.
He's death. He's death.
Yes, he is death. He is death. Nothing.
Masquerading as a good guy.
Not even the white plug can stop the Bloody Nine. To finish my thought is I like the fact that Joe always has the balance between hardcore epic people and fights and stuff and super realistic would probably happen to most people. I love that he always has the balance.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, Agric goes all numb, and we switch perspectives again. And now we are with Colonel Wetterland. Well, the famous Colonel Wetterland, who worked so hard on the King's Own 6th Regiment to, turn it into the finely tuned, well-oiled machine that it is, right? Or that it was. And so he has a major Colfer screaming in his face, "We have to withdraw, there's too many of them." And he goes, "No, General Jalahorn will bring reinforcements, he promised us." He goes, "Then where the fuck is he?"
I love the fact that he says the same line as Lasmark as well. He's like, "Where are the Northmen coming from?" Well, the North, of course.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And, we know that Joe is a huge fan of repetition, and repetition happens a lot throughout this chapter.
Absolutely. And you'll see that Wetterland is just yelling at his men to stand and fight. He's a proud man of a proud family, and he would stand until the bitter end, and if necessary, and die fighting with a sword in hand, as his grandfather was said to have done. He would die under the regimental colors. Well, he would, as long if they weren't under Agric's dead body.
Oh.
Yeah. And so he doesn't know what to do, because even though for all the drilling and the training and all the work he put in the regiment, this is a totally different situation. A swarm of angry Northmen, barbarians to their point of view, are just losing their mind. And so he goes, what would Lord Marshal Varuz have done? He always admired Varuz, unflappable, but Varuz is dead under a tower somewhere.
I like to. We saw Varuz being completely stumped in Last Argument of the Kings. He's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, in a way, yes, true. That is true. I remember. And so he sees Major Colfer he screams because a split appeared in his shoulder right down to his chest, and Wetterland wanted to tell him to not scream in a manner that's so unbefitting of an officer of the King's Own. No, he's got to scream like a manly man.
He's like, "Don't be a pussy."
And then I like how he falls to Colfer falls to the ground, gracefully at least, and a large Northman steps up with an axe and just cleaves him into pieces. And Wetterland was like, "Oh, I should jump to his aid," even though he's dead, basically, at this point. But he couldn't move because this Northman was just very businesslike, very calm, very chill. right? And so
Very cutesy, very demure.
very demure, and and then the Northman, when he's done, turns to look at Wetterland, and the far side of his face was crossed by a giant scar, a bright ball of dead metal in his eye socket. Wetterland ran.
Who could blame him? Jesus.
He once he saw that face, he's
kidding.
like, "Oh, fuck this." He's like, "Fuck my grandfather, fuck my father, fuck my family. I'm out."
Well, it just goes to show you that it doesn't matter how many principles somebody has. You come to face with a bear, you gotta fucking run away.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Basically, if you didn't realize, listeners, he came face to face with Shivers and goes, "Fuck that, I'm out of here." And he ran past the children. He ran past Union men that were on their way to the heroes to help, and then they turned and ran because they're like, "Why the fuck is he running? We're out." And then he falls somewhere like away from the heroes, near like some woods to the south, and then he sees a group of Union men, and I think they're his men, regiment, the 6th Regiment, and he goes, "Men, you," and they look at him like, "Who the fuck are you?" And then they go, "So men of the 6th, we must hold here, we must," and then one of them goes, "Hold here, fuck out of here." They hit him with the sword, but with the flat side, so they knock him down, and then they might whoop his ass again until they realize that the Northmen are still coming down, and not just coming down, they're fucking cavalry. The Northern cavalry are riding towards them, so he can't stay there. They're all running now. He's fucking losing his mind. He's scared. He's crying, and he's struggling in the water now, the river, because they made it to the river. What's the name of this river again? Oh, who cares? Anyway,
It's
so
it's not really a river.
It's
Yeah.
a streamish kind of thing. And then
So
suddenly,
it's called Wiren's Beck.
oh God. And then, well, he's hearing the hooves get closer and closer and closer, and he's panicking, but there's nothing he can do. As he gets in the river, he gets on his side because he just feels an intense crushing pressure on his chest and an unspeakable agony on his back. And he basically dies.
Yeah,
And
it
then
sounds like he gets crushed by a horse.
or he gets hit. No,
Yeah.
he gets hit with the spear. The
He gets hit by a
spear,
spear, and then the
and it
intense,
splinters. And then it splinters.
and then after they've passed, all the rest of them just trample them to death.
Yep. And so what happened
What a
was
wonderful way to go.
Yeah. And so what happened was we shift perspectives now to Sut Brittle, who is part of Golden's clan.
Retinue.
His retinue, yeah. And apparently Golden had a genius idea. He offered 100 gold coins from the desert to the first man across the river. Brittle wanted that money. And so it's very easy, because the Union men are routing. It's just a matter of, running them down, right? And he'd been focused on killing a lot of these routing Union men till he realized that Hengel Feathers is actually now kind of like ahead of him in terms of like about to cross the river. And he'll be damned if a man like Hengel Feathers is going to cheat him out of his coins. So he's trying to chase him to get ahead of him, at least, maybe even do something to him. Who knows? And he's focused on Feathers. And he gets closer, and then he sees that Feathers essentially explodes. And when I say explodes, I mean he gets flung off his saddle in a burst of blood. And he was like, what happened here? On one hand, he's happy about it. On the other hand, there's a strange looking bastard coming his way now. Well armored, well horsed, short sword and reins in one hand, long sword ready in the other. And it's just a big dude, and he's riding at Golden's cavalry all by himself while the rest of the Union is running the other way. This is an interesting person. I wonder who this could be.
Oh, it's a boy.
Well, we'll see. And so, even in the midst of all Sut's bloodlust, he goes, "This guy, maybe I'll just like kind of veer off a little bit and like put my shield in front of it myself." And good thing he did, because that shield got whacked with the short sword, and this guy's really fast and nearly ripped it off his arm. And so he,
I
swings.
just, sorry, Jeffrey. I just want to say, if your shield gets destroyed by a short sword, you need to get a better blacksmith.
Well, it's a wooden shield.
Yeah, but wooden shields were always rimmed by iron, Jeffrey.
Hey,
That's
no,
true.
actually,
I
that
know,
is
I
not.
know.
Hang on. I
Well,
have actually wooden shields
maybe-
typically were not rimmed by iron, but
Ah.
inside the first Law universe, they are. So you are technically correct. However, he's also fighting Gorst.
Yeah, Bremer Dan Gorst, folks. If you
Bremer
didn't
Dan
realize.
Gorst.
A bull of a man.
So he's like One Punch Man. He does all those exercises, and he can
You're
chop
damn
through
right. He is.
iron.
I tell you what.
Oh, is
Joe,
a Calvez like a lightsaber?
he just he's got a heavy. First of all, it's a heavy Calvez. Okay, it's a heavy Calvez.
Yeah,
It's a big ass Calvez.
Yeah, big
And,
ass Calvez.
And he's not used. He's surprised how fast Gorst is too, and so he tries to swing his sword, and he realizes that he doesn't have a right hand anymore. And then
Whoopsie.
whoopsie daisies, and then he feels a great crunching in his chest, and he was flung out of his saddle right into the cold water, with nothing but bubbles gurgling around his face. And then we have a break to Gorst, and I'm just gonna let you listeners know this is the last perspective of this chapter. So Gorst is on a goddamn mission.
He's high. He's high on adrenaline
Yeah.
and
Yes.
bloodlust, like you say. This guy has had no emotional attachment to anything in the last like 10 years, and he's just like, hell yeah, this is great because I'm
My
good at it.
This is what I'm good at, baby. This is what I like. And he's killing Northmen left and right. He's treating them like they were treating the routing Union, right? He's just flinging them, stabbing them, cutting off their heads. He might have accidentally stabbed a Union guy in the back by accident. Like, oh, oopsie, my bad.
And I like how he reflects on it as well. He's just like, oh, but who cares in the name of battle?
Yeah, because he lost his short steel. And so he's like, all he cares about, he can't really hear anything else except his own breath, his own grunts, his own girlish squeaks as he swings. I mean, this guy's even chopping off horses' heads off. Like, what the fuck, Dan? Chill out.
That's exactly the sound he would make when he's chopping a horse's head off. Like,
Eh.
that's exactly it. That's what he do.
Perfect. Yes.
So, and then he spies with his eye a big Northman sitting on a black horse in the midst of the river, his horned helmet, his armor, his shield, all chased with whorls of gold. Oh, we know who this is. This is Glamour Golden himself. And what Gorst does? He kicks his horsey to go right towards him, right for him. And then and this man fucking just attacks Glamour Golden's shield, leaves a big ass dent in it, chops at it again, and sends Golden lurching in his saddle. Sorry, and then to go for a finishing blow, another Northman with a red beard knocks it away with the mace and swings it at Gorst's head, but Gorst is able to kind of catch the shaft in one hand, pulls out the dagger that he had in another, and just rammed it into the guy's jaw. And so he turns back to Golden. And so he just basically, because Golden raises his axe high, Gorst just grabs him, bear hugs him, essentially. And because the axe came down, because the shaft it got caught on Gorst's shoulder, it just kind of gets cut short, right? It doesn't really do anything when it hits Gorst's shoulder and
they grip so tight together, aren't they? They just like stare at each other in the face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, say one thing for Glamour Golden: say he can take a beating.
Oh, well, you're going to see the beating he takes right now. Because what Gorst does with one of his hands, he grabs one of the horns on his helmet and twists it so that the helmet, Glamour's face isn't exposed anymore. It's the side of the helmet that's on the front of Glamour's face. And Glamour's trying to fight out of this. But one arm is stuck because his axe is looped around his wrist and his axe is caught on Gorst's armor, and the other arm is stuck because it's underneath Gorst's it's underneath his battered shield, and Gorst has that in a bear hug. So Gorse has at least one free hand. So what Gorse does is takes his gauntleted hand and just starts beating the fuck out of Glamour Golden's face. He's punching directly into the helmet because remember the helmet is now covering Glamour's open face. It's not open anymore. But he's just punching it so much that it's indenting the helmet into Glamour Golden's face. You're hearing the crunch, crunch, crunch cutting into his cheek, right?
At this point, yeah, Ghost is literally superhuman. There's no way any human person could do that. Even if you
come
had,
on.
even if you had metal gauntlets on.
Hey, but
I
he's
think
strong
so.
as shit. He's strong as shit. He's bigger than you, George. He's like 6'7".
Have you seen what these strongmen can do?
But there's no muscles in your fingers, right? So if you're going to punch something, all it takes is that bone to break.
Well, he has gloves on. He's got his
he-
gauntlets on.
Yeah, and
He's
he's got his gauntlets on, but you can't bend steel without huge amounts of force.
Listen.
Enormous amounts of force.
But it's not steel though, is it? It's northern, like it's not even plate. You know. I'm saying is
I
It's
just
just
it's not as
I
good
like
as
to think
metal.
I like to think that Gorse has just become
Superhuman.
like a monk. He's just like
Get
trained
monk
so
class?
much that he's
Right.
like
Well,
superhuman.
Also, it's fantasy. So shut up, George.
I hate that argument so much.
I know.
You care about realism, but you don't care about dragons.
Well, basically, he is bashing Golden in the fucking face. And then something while I like as he's beating the shit out of Golden, he's laughing and also saying "I love" in his perspective. He's saying "I love you" to Golden because he has to be his best friend because he's in the midst of all this violence with him. He's sharing in this violence with him. Gorse is nuts.
But it's not that he's lonely. He's lonely, and that's the first connection that he's had is that.
I see what you're
This is what I
saying.
mean when I say Gorse is tragic. This is a sad man.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. I see what you mean. I just think in the heat of the
Despite
battle,
all the war crimes and that,
all the war crimes. Yeah, despite that. Sure. Yeah. Send him to the Hague, I guess. And then he gets hit in the back, right? With a dull clang. So somebody must have hit him in the middle of his, with like a mace or something. He gets out. He falls out of his saddle into the water, and he's trying to get himself up. Golden is able to actually finds himself to a horse that doesn't have a rider, gets himself into the saddle, and it's chaos, right? At first, it was Union men and Northmen. Like there were Union cavalry, like kind of backing up Gorse for a moment. Now there's not. It's really just only Northmen, and their weapons are all raised because Glamour he got the fuck out of there. After taking that beating, he got the fuck out of there. So now basically Gorse is kind of surrounded by Northmen on horses, and their weapons are lowered, and they're moving their horses cautiously towards him. They're like, this guy's fucking nuts. And Gorse is so nuts that he just spreads his arms, smiles, and he goes, "I am ready." Right? But then we hear a voice out of nowhere say, "Shoot!" And then there's like a volley of clicks and rattles, and so a bunch of Northmen they fall from the saddle. So apparently on the south side of the bank of the river, the Union Flappo men have arrived, and it's General Jallenhorn. He's there, and he's like, second rank, shoot! This guy has got these guys. This is where he's good, right? In the moment, in the immediate. He's not good with the.
It turns up at the last minute just to save the day.
He's not good in small actions. That's what he's
right.
Good.
He's not good in the grand view sense of things, right? So now the Flappo men are driving the Northerners back across the river with all these flatbows.
They drove them back across the border of the river.
Across the border.
Here we go, back to the border.
Drive them back over the border.
And Gorse, it kind of goes, oh shit. He ducks a little bit, as they're shooting the flatbows, and then the Northerners, if they're not dead, they've retreated, right? And then he realizes that the engagement was over and he was still alive. How strangely disappointing. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it? You want to talk about it?
Max score 9.5. Yeah. Go on.
Gotta give it. Gotta give it 9 out of 9.
Absolutely.
It's the start of a great legacy of Joe Abercrombie chapters.
This is this is the pinnacle.
And we've talked about it so many times, haven't we? We were like, I wish he'd come up with this sooner because this would be a great time for this to happen.
Right? Imagine this perspective in the middle of the Battle of the High Places, while Logan's losing his shit,
Or the Battle of the Cumnor.
or the
yeah.
or even the
Man.
Blackwell. Yeah, man.
Just any
man.
any of the battles, any of the big events. This would just
Oh my god, so good, so good. Yeah, I mean, what can't we say about this chapter? It's great length, right? So it's not short. Switching perspectives, you know, you're hit with this from the first time you read it. You're like, whoa, this is fucking cool, and there's like that tangential connection between each person.
He gives
Right,
he gives you just enough time to get associated with the character and start to know them,
Yep.
and then he's like, "Oh no, they're dead."
He did. Yep. I mean,
I mean, I really like how the whole thing is framed. Like this sets up like he's so good at capturing somebody's personality in such a short period of time, and this is like the epitome of that. And he does such a good job at maximizes his strengths. I think that's why it fits him so well.
yeah. I mean, what else? What I love is like we get down to the very minutia, right? The no name characters, right? We actually, you know, we take possession of their perspective, but then we also get, you know, glances at maybe minor to major characters: Gorst, Jallenhorn, Colonel Wetterlant for, you know, all his brief moment on screen.
Exactly. I mean, like with main characters, that's the problem with main characters because you always have a motivation, and they're always thinking about that motivation. At least in these books, whereas in these very short sections, we can get into the mind of somebody who's just like, "Oh, what if I just did this job?" Or what if I happen to be a career soldier or something like that, you know?
Yes.
And you get it more into the background of the world, and you get invested in the character and the world at the same time.
So yeah, I mean, we can go on and on about this chapter.
But it's a trifecta, isn't it? We're all doing 9.5.
I think we speak for everybody, right? When you first read this chapter, you're hooked. I mean, no, not even you're hooked. You are slapped across the face with just amazing, like just awesomeness. It's a very dude bro way of putting that, but that's the way I could put it right now. Vince Reagan. So
it like comes out of nowhere too. You're just chilling, reading this book, and you're like, I wonder how they're gonna play this out. And then suddenly you're like, oh shit.
yeah.
This is a lot.
Well done, Joe. Fantastic.
And I really haven't seen anybody else write like this.
Nah.
No.
I can't think of anybody. But so that'll be the end of that chapter. Thank you for the rating, boys. So we'll move on to our final segment, which is our character spot. Now, boys, help me out here. In light of the chapter we just read, who are we spotlighting?
Everyone.
All of the casualties.
That's right, baby. Go for it. Take us through it.
I feel sorry for Rose, most of all.
Really?
Rose is incompetent. That's what you get for being incompetent.
He's like a kid. He's like fucking like 16 or something.
Wait a minute.
We don't know that.
What did you just say? Jeffrey, did you just get... You said he's whatever, he's in the military. Yeah, but just think about what you just said to me there. Because I just think I remember me saying something about a certain Northman in the beginning of the series who died because he was a young man.
No.
And I said, I don't really care for him.
Don't you dare besmirch the great name of Forley the Weakest. I will fucking fly to fucking Oklahoma. I promise you. All right, Forley went into Carleon knowing his death was likely, and he faced it head on. Rose can't even fucking load a flatboat correctly. All right? Don't you ever dare compare them. All right? And then he tries to slap the man he just shot in the face from an unauthorized nap. How dare you compare them?
That's fair. That's fair.
Everyone listening, I want you to flood Harrison with hate mail, please.
Yes, give me the hate mail.
Yes, give it to the Adeptus. He needs to have things to read through, to sift through. But yeah, I mean, there's I think the apropos thing to do is to highlight kind of like everybody, right? Like Harrison, like the first guy we met, that was Last Mark, right?
Yep. And then we have light sleep after that.
Right. And but with Lasmark, you would call him somebody that joined the army just to kind of gain social status, right? Is that what you would say?
Last mark is somebody who basically is like completely not cut out for this. Not
Oh,
for this level. He is
Nope.
like
Nope.
he's like the career soldier who should never see combat.
Yeah, I mean, for fuck's sake, he got an antique sword. Who does that if you're gonna see combat?
Well,
Exactly.
because it's so cool.
And then we have Light Sleep, the Northerner, who is I guess your bread and butter Northerner, kind of in it for your personal gain. And then yeah, Light Sleep, he's that guy. Like I said, your bread and he's okay. Hold on. Light Sleep is your bread and butter Northern warrior, really kind of in it for his own personal gain, but also like to get as much loot as he can to take care of his daughters or whatever, or his kids. Then he gets got unceremoniously, and his own chief is starting to pickpocket his dead corpse. And then we go, obviously we meet Sergeant Gaunt, right? Sergeant Gaunt, the career soldier, just does his job. Just keep it loading, boys. Keep loading. Do your job, and everything will be okay.
Exactly, and more of Joe Abercrombie's ridiculous names that are just like descriptions, like Gaunt and Rose. Like we get some of the most nefarious examples here. Like that's just
That's funny.
who calls somebody Gaunt? You have a baby and you're just like, yeah, that's Gaunt.
Gaunt's the last name. Gaunt is the last name. Although I do feel like there's a character named.
How'd you get that last name?
I guess the family's Gaunt. I don't know.
Hey, I do really like that Rose kills Gaunt though, because like no, I do, because it fits so well. It's so
a good
perfect.
moment. It's a good moment.
You know how much friendly fire happens?
Oh yeah,
and the fact that it happens is like so tragic, because Gaunt is like this steady, good soldier. He's been doing this a while. He knows what he's doing. He's keeping the men together, and he's like, "Hey, don't worry about this, son. We got this." And then he just gets fucking murdered.
I mean,
it fits so well into the universe and into real life. Unfortunately, this has happened probably super often. In fact, it also is a little bit of foreshadowing, I would say, because this is the war book, and they got to foreshadow some certain friendly fire.
Friendly fire, yeah. And I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about.
But I mean, that's absolutely true. Like, there's a non-zero amount of accidents in armies where a recruit points a gun at somebody thinking it's not loaded and shoots their fucking head off. It's just that easy.
Yeah.
And everybody knows those crossbows used to be on a fucking hair trigger.
Yeah, so I guess we should talk about Rose at this point. Yeah, this guy was fiddling with his flat bow for a week or so, didn't get it fixed, and because of that, like you said, it's already on a hair trigger, and the fact that it's wobbling apparently.
And also, he finds it more scary to report to his sergeant that it's broken than he does to just not think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
No, does that not sound like discipline?
Yeah.
Definitely not great.
Not great.
Not looking good, pal.
And I like he goes, I would have been better off with a spear. Sergeant Gaunt himself would have been better off if I had a spear. Oh my
that's sad.
Poor kid.
Just straight up incompetence. And then he gets murked by Agric, who now is another archetype, right? Because Rose is your classic, your rosy cheeked recruit, fresh face, never seen battle, scared shitless. He dies. And then Agric,
I guess that's why Gaunt has that name, right? Because he's older and wiser, and then Rose.
Yeah, well, they both died. Both died. And Agric is obviously the vengeance-fueled brother, classic literary kind of character. And for all of his efforts, he gets murdered.
Yep, just when he's at the prime of his killing spree.
Yeah.
Oh shit! What's that? Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, he got he's on a 3-man killing spree, and then immediately just dies.
suitably unheroic.
Very unheroic, especially when he got killed by Colonel Wetterland, who that might have been the only person Colonel Wetterland has ever killed in his life.
I would say so.
Yeah,
Speaking
right.
of Colonel Wetterland, right?
Yeah. Speaking of him,
Colonel Wetterland is like somebody who is, I feel as though, is super relatable. He's like, guys, I'm a career soldier, but like, he's an officer. He's like, I built this regiment. I take pride. We're gonna stand our ground. That's what I've always dreamed of, is standing my ground in battle. And and then his second in command gets murdered. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna die with him. This is how. Now fuck this. He just runs. It's so relatable. So many people would be like, I'm gonna stand my ground, and then no, you just can't do it. It's awesome.
Yeah, your principles are only as strong as your will at the end of the day.
Yes.
and we have Wetterland dying unceremoniously, I think we could say, in the middle of a river. Then we have who was that? Oh, before he died unceremoniously, right? He got fucking his ass whipped by his own men when they're like, "All right, we're tired of your drilling. We're tired of you as a man. Fuck you. Fuck your rules. Fuck your drills. We out." And they might have killed him if it wasn't for the Northerners coming.
Exactly, and that isn't even that uncommon either. Just
Yeah.
you heard about that in Vietnam as well. With you just throw a frag grenade in your fucking officer's tent because they're the ones that are going to tell you to go and die for no reason. So, oh well.
Yeah. And then we, after Wetterland's unceremonious death, we switch over to Sup Brittle, the last of our perspectives here, or the characters that we meet before Gorst. And he is, driven by gold, mainly, which I think you would say a lot of these men are, right?
Oh, I don't blame him.
Right, you gotta make a living, and I don't want to say he's like, I guess he's like another light sleep in terms of like what his function is, but he
Well, are you saying that Northmen are just less interesting than the Union people?
No. I'm just
That's
talking about.
racist. That's racist.
Oh, well,
I've known a lot of great Northmen in my life, and they're great people, wonderful people. They make wonderful chainmail.
Oh my god! I'm saying he's like light sleep. That's it. These two are similar, driven by gold, but instead of like being, but they're both proud, right? He's not gonna let Hengel feathers, make it to the river, across the river before him. But it's pride, but also like he wants to get that gold first, right? So I fully believe he was about to sabotage, like kill Feathers, if anything.
Exactly.
And then he comes face to face with Gorst, and that's just not a recipe for success.
No.
No.
But I just love how in that chapter in general, all those characters mirror each other so well.
Mm-hmm.
You have all the people that are just trying to get along, and the people that are in there and they're invested.
Yeah.
And they really want to make a difference, and they just die anyway.
Yeah. Death comes for us all. You're back to the mud the same way. All that blah 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 blah.
Don't join the army, kids. It's not worth it.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It won't work out well for you in the end. But then again, it's like you're not doing it for yourself, man. You're doing it for the greater good. Well,
you're doing it for freedom. You're doing it for America.
All right. Well, hold on now.
Economy.
Hold on. Stop it.
I love America.
Because I'm proud to be an American at this time, the week of the election. Oh, boy. Gotta love it. Anyway, so those are the characters that are not, main character perspectives, not Gorst. We're not going to really cover Gorst because we cover him all the time. But those are the homies of Casualties. Well, that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot.
Join us next week as we cover The Better Part of Valor, Paths of Glory, The Day's Work, and The Defeated.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media. And we have a website at circleoftheworld.com, and shoot us an email at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. And please make sure to rate and review us, as it helps. Thank you all again for listening.
Crank, lads, crank!